Hello and welcome to another Monday night live stream. I wasn't sure I was actually going to do this live stream, but ended up being a pretty early night or early day, so here I am. Hopefully the audio sounds good. I did raise it a little bit. I've been told that it's lower than my music, so hopefully this sounds pretty good. If not, let me know. Um, as usual, David Grishko is first. um, so I we'll get to that in a second. So like button already smashed. That's awesome. Eric is here. Yeah, we got quite a good eclipse here. Varied by location, but it was pretty good. You would give it a needs improvement. Toro's here. Welcome in. Yes, the next eclipse is 2044, I believe. So you have to wait 20 years if you want to see a full eclipse again. Jeremy is here. Welcome in. Nils, glad you could make it. You heard a Windows notification sound? Oh, yes, OBS had one. Speed test is actually turned off, so no speed test here. Not sure what you saw or whatever, but no speed test. Joe is just finishing work. Joe saw the eclipse today, I know. I saw his photo on social media. Well, I don't think he posted it, but I saw him in a photo. Levels are good. That's great. Welcome in, Brian. Glad you can make it. I know that you saw the eclipse today, too. So hopefully it was fun. So I'm not sure how long I'm going to stream tonight. I've been up since 6 a.m. So we'll see what happens. So I promise nothing at this point. And if you all want to complain, you can take it up with the YouTube algorithm. I don't know. I'm just making stuff up. All right. So I think the easiest way to do this would be to basically summarize my day through pictures. At least as many pictures as I can show. So let's get started. The first thing I did today was obviously woke up way earlier than I wanted to. I got to work like before 8 o'clock. Usually I wake up at 8 o'clock. So I just couldn't sleep, so I got an early start to the day. Our crew started setting up around 7 a.m., and so I got to work a little before 8. Then I went over to help one of our crews because it was a satellite shot and it had 3 different parts to it. So I took this interesting picture. This is from on top of our truck where I'm looking up the mast, and we were doing both microwave and satellite shots. Now, we typically just do cellular bonded, backpacks, for our everyday live shots. But this was basically, this was kind of an unusual day. We had, I want to say, 7 or 8 live shots all out at the same time. We actually had to rent backpacks because we don't have enough backpacks to cover everything we wanted to. But because we weren't sure if 500,000 people were going to show up or 1,000,000 people were going to show up, we just had no idea what to expect. So we basically assumed that the cell phone networks were going to collapse, and basically worst case scenario. So we have a sat truck that still works, and so we put our anchors up on satellite planned for 8 hours, well, 7, for 7 hours, and that way we guaranteed that we had our anchors and our chief meteorologist back at the station. We absolutely made sure that nothing was going to interfere with those live shots, because we were assuming that the worst case scenario would be that's all we had was our anchors, and so therefore we made sure they were on satellite. We then put a beauty camera up, which is what the blue cable is, because this mast has been converted from truck to truck and does not have anything HD or Ethernet in it. So there's a camera up there, but it's just an SD one. So we basically had to run a cable up the side whenever we do these masted live or these beauty shots. So it's a Bosch camera, dome camera that basically looks down, and so we bring it down on Ethernet, and then we convert it to HDMI, and then we convert it to SDI to plug in. So got up there, got that set up, and then this is me up on the satellite dish, or on top of the truck next to the satellite dish. The dish is not transmitting at this point. We're just setting things up. Behind me, you can see our anchors getting, I think the anchors are doing the morning show or getting ready for the morning show. We had a set, we had 2 cameras, we had tents and lights and all kinds of stuff. So this is me getting ready this morning. This is our multi-viewer back at the station. So this kind of shows you we had 7 sources, HD 1 through 7, plus we had 2 live cameras around the city that we're going to basically be showing or using. And so this is kind of getting ready. I forget what time this was, but basically this is a multi-viewer in our control room that shows us all of the inputs that we're using for the day. Very helpful to see what's available, because as we'll kind of go through later on, sometimes the shots aren't there. This was how we brought in the local university, had their telescope online. So instead of us shooting the telescope and, potentially getting it shaky or do whatever, we signed up with the local university who was going to be shooting it, and basically they shot the thing with their professional, telescope, and we just brought it in with a extra laptop plugged in. We use decimators, the HDXs, to convert HDMI to SDI. I love those things because they have 4 SDI outputs. They have an HDMI loop through. They convert basically anything you want to give them, and they can do audio stuff. Like the decimators are incredibly awesome tools, and we have probably, I would have to guess, we have a dozen at least around the station doing various things. So then basically I got some time to go outside, and I was, Mr. Cool with my glasses on. Surprised that shot came out pretty good considering I couldn't see the camera because those glasses were on. This is my shot I took of the Eclipse next to our tower. I thought it was pretty cool. There's our microwave tower, and there's the Eclipse happening in the background. This is the same tower, just a different view. Kind of shows you more what's on the tower. And then this is the best photo I took today with my cell phone camera, which is the Eclipse pretty much centered on the screen in totality, which was pretty cool. So I have more photos to show, but at this point I want to go back and look at your questions and see what you guys are thinking. Levels are good. What was IFB? So, if you don't know, IFB is interruptible foldback. It's how our control room talks to our talent. Usually, it's a program feed of the audio you hear at home, and then we push a button, it cuts out, and now the producer can talk to the talent and basically, tell them what's next or where to go to, who to toss to, so on and so forth. So we use phone, and we use cell phones for IFB exclusively. We do have the ability to do IFB via a Dejero backpack return channel, but they're all shared. So therefore, we just kind of have that as a backup. We also had backup Zoom room today, where basically, if anybody lost the cell phone call, but they had internet, they could join a Zoom room, and then we would have IFB available for them that way instead of the cell phone network, because every location we were at had backup Wi-Fi available to or backup hardwired, which I think saved the day at a lot of locations because we were in some small towns, and we still lost live shots even with a wired option. So I can only imagine what would have happened if we wouldn't have had a wired option. So, but yeah, so we have IFB. So, but one of the things, and this actually goes to the next part of the photo collection, is we said, what happens if we lose cell phone service? And obviously, the backpacks, we had hardwired internet available to them. The anchors were on satellite. We brought in people via microwave trucks. We also oh, I'm out of buttons. I need a bigger stream deck. Okay, let's do it this way. So we went old school, and we actually hooked up two-way radios. And so we built this little jig. Well, one of my guys did. And we hooked this up to a antenna on the roof, just temporary antenna. And what's happening here is basically the audio is coming in to the top here via this, little board that he made. And we had a little switch. And so if the switch was up, we'd be in transmit mode. If it was down, we would be off. This was, again, the backup plan. So the idea was that this would be on, ready to go, but off until we actually needed it. So we did not flip up the switch at all today. I mean, we did to test it, but we never ended up needing it. But we were ready to go. And so we had this two-way radio plugged in. It was set up for repeater mode, or sorry, that was just what I was putting in for test. We had it set up for field mode, and field mode basically means we broadcast and everybody on that channel can hear it. It does not go through a repeater. If you know about two-way radios, there are basically two kinds of transmissions. There's repeater mode, which is what this radio can do, and it goes through our repeater, but that only has a 3-minute transmit window. So we can't just use this for IFB because the repeater would shut off and then nobody would be able to hear it. So we had to go to field mode, which basically means we talk around the repeater. We're not using the same frequency as the repeater, and we could just transmit as much as we wanted to. We are licensed for these frequencies. These are not just, C-band or communication, whatever. These are frequencies we are licensed for to use. Nobody else is. So, and then we ran into an issue that this is sitting outside, and for some reason it's noisy. Like the audio is noisy. So we actually found this out of an old production truck, and it's a 600 ohm transformer, and this cleared the audio up perfectly. Like we brought the audio in, it did some isolation, and then it went out to the radio. This is just sitting on the ground. This thing is a tank. This thing is huge. It is, solid metal. Like, I mean, this thing, if I threw this at you, it would hurt. Let's just put it that way. That's how big this thing is. But it solved the issue, the audio isolation issue perfectly. So yeah, so we had a two-way system ready to go in case we lost the cell phone network. We ended up not needing it, thankfully. We did have one issue with a live truck today. We tested it, everything was great, but then for some reason today it was breaking up like crazy, and the fix was crazy. I never thought it would work, but basically, we had rebooted the entire system. So like encoder, transmitter, receiver, tuner, like we had rebooted the whole system, every single thing, and it was still breaking up. And then I said to the photog, I said, can you just do me a favor and turn the air conditioning on in the truck? And I said, I don't know if the unit's getting hot or if the generator has some sort of electrical issue. I don't know what it is, but turn the AC on and just crank it. He turned the AC on, and we never had an issue the rest of the show. I don't know why. Turning the air conditioning on, it must have stabilized the generator. It could have, it like instantly got better. So I don't think it's like cooling necessarily. I think it just must have stabilized the generator or brought the voltage down, or I don't know what it did, but it totally helped, and I'm glad I thought of it, because I'm not quite sure why turning the generator on or turning the air conditioning on would fix an encoder issue, but it did. So yeah, like I said, we lost a couple live shots during the eclipse because these small towns were just overwhelmed with people. I mean, to show you how bad it is, or how bad it was, the highway going north was backed up bumper to bumper 2.5 hours after the eclipse. Now, going south was fine, but going north was absolutely bumper to bumper traffic, and it was more like 3 hours after the eclipse. It was 3 hours after the eclipse. Traffic was still back to bumper trying to go north. So, yeah, that's how many people were actually coming to this area, trying to, to watch the eclipse. So to lose a couple live shots for here and there and not really for very long, I think we overall did a great job. I think putting things on satellite and microwave and making sure we had diverse paths no matter what happened was excellent. And I mean, we would have had to get 3 or 4 Dejeros, so we would have had to rent 3 or 4 more, or we would have had to basically simplify our show. And so having satellite, microwave, and cellular all together really worked out well. And we weren't the only one to use satellite. A station from a different market came into our market and basically had their version of a satellite IP link. They're all IP from what I understand, and so but they had a satellite dish on top of their truck, and it found whatever satellite it uses, and it got internet bandwidth, and that's what they used to send the signal back to their station. It was still satellite, but it was IP based satellite, which is pretty popular these days because it's auto find. So you just hit deploy, the dish goes up, it finds the one satellite it knows about, and therefore you're good. Now, if you hadn't already figured out, the one issue with that is it only knows one satellite. So if for some reason you're blocked or whatever it is, or there's an issue with that satellite, this thing becomes useless because it only knows about one. So pros and cons, there are good and bad things to everything. And so cool to have. Not sure I would spend the money on it, but they do. And so, all right, let's go back to the questions. I probably talked way too much without answering questions. So hold on a second. All right. So Eric says Bosch. Yeah, I'm not a big Bosch fan, but I mean these cameras have been reliable as hell. We've had one um, in the middle of the lake for 6 years, 7 years. Never been replaced. It's been working great. Uh, it's obviously been hit by lightning because we've had to replace the surge protector on the Ethernet jack that powers it. So it's obviously been hit by lightning or surges, and the thing keeps working. Yeah, don't walk up to the salad dish with stuff in it. Yeah, we all got matching shirts. Marketing. We had a telescope on site. We ended up not really using it because it was one of those smaller ones, and it couldn't track very well. So we used university's. Definitely nice. Yes, the decimators are incredible. If you never used one before, I would look at them. They are more expensive than a Black Magic product. You could probably nail in. You could drive a nail into some wood with them because they're that solid. I would not even attempt that with a Black Magic product. Um, and unlike Black Magic products, these things don't need power cycled constantly. We have decimators that have been powered up for probably a year or two without any issues. The decimators are often back ordered, yes. No, it did not ruin my cell phone camera. Um, but about this question, have I ever told you the decimator story about how I ordered one and I couldn't get one, and then I found out why like 2 years later? If I haven't told the decimator story, put it in chat, and when I get down there, I will tell you the decimator story. So many safety nets, yes. So it depends. If you're in repeater mode and the repeater can hear you, I believe it's like 45 miles, or at least that's what it's licensed for. Um, in the two-way radio setup that we had as backup today, it was crystal clear over a mile away. So, have you tried have you tried turning the AC on? I mean, it worked. I don't know. I can't explain to you why it worked, but it totally did. Uh, no, like this is like an electrical Cummins. I think it's Cummins. No, it's not Cummins. It's gosh, I can't think what generator it is now. I mean, it's a gasoline powered generator in the live truck. Um, so it's an old school generator. Hold on a second. Alrighty. Yeah, turning the AC on, that's what I figured. It definitely did something because the minute I turned it on, it was rock solid, which was great. Um, yeah, traffic was backed up for miles. Brian, glad that you partaked. Um, was this more or less? So this was an all-day event for us. We cut out our whole afternoon programming block and went from our noon to our 4 to our 5 to our 6. We were on the air for 6.5 hours straight. Brian is so glad to see you here. I'm glad that you were able to partake in the eclipse today. I'm glad that you're here. It's definitely been a while. Um, Good to see you. I mentioned you a couple weeks ago, or was it last week? Because I still have that edge router. Brian is saying hello to everybody. Yeah, Brian used to watch Joe when Joe streamed constantly. So, uh, no to story. Please tell a story. Doesn't ring a bell. Okay. I said, no, you didn't tell it. I have not turned this minute. Okay. It is not a lawnmower engine. um, it does sound like dirty power. All right, so the decimator story. So we were buying, I think, the Bosch cameras, and we needed decimators because they're the what are they? Let me look up the model number. The MDHX. The prices have come down. Interesting. Alrighty, so let me take Bob's comment off. So this is a decimator, for those who don't know. And Joe is right, they're back ordered. But basically, they take in HDMI or SDI, and they convert to HDMI or SDI. But the beauty and why we use them is because right here, they have 4 SDI outputs. So whether you're using SDI in or you're using HDMI in, you get 4 SDI outputs. So not only is it a cross converter, but it's also a DA, a distribution amplifier. So when we do Bosch cameras, we get 1 HDMI output from the decoder, and we convert that, we plug that into a decimator, and then we have 4 outputs, and it feeds 4 different devices: 1 router, 1 switcher, and then 2 Blackmagic video hubs. And so it does it perfectly all in one device, which is why I wanted them. So I had ordered like 2 decimators from one company, and I was told, they're not available. I'm like, okay, well, I kind of need them. So I placed another order with a separate company, thinking maybe they have them in stock, maybe they have different sources, who knows. And they didn't have them either, because as Joe points out, they're always on back order, because I think they're Australian. I forget where they're from. And so fine, I'm like, okay, we can't get these things anywhere. What are we gonna do? We have these cameras; they have to go on the air. I forget what we did in the meantime, but basically, all of a sudden, one day I get a ship notification. Hey, your decimators have finally shipped. I'm like, good, finally. 2 minutes later, your decimators have shipped. Wait, both orders were just fulfilled at the almost the exact same minute. Interesting. How does that work? Oh, yeah, it's because they had the same supplier. So I got 4 decimators in the mail, which was great. But I was like, well, geez, why couldn't I find any damn decimators? Because, what the hell? So fast forward to a couple years ago. I guess it was pre-COVID. Yeah, it was pre-COVID. And I'm in a production truck that I've talked about before, and we're doing sports. And I made a comment like, or he pulls out a decimator. I forget how. Either way, there was a comment made about decimators and production and how useful they are. And he says, oh, yeah, I just did a gig. This is the truck engineer talking to me. And he goes, yeah, I did a gig last year in San Francisco where I literally bought every decimator in America. And I said, what do you mean you bought? He goes, we were buying them from anybody who had a decimator on the shelf and wanted to sell it used. We bought every one out of stock. I said, what was the event? And he goes, it was a gamers broadcast, like a gaming convention or gamers, whatever it was. So there was something like 65 or 85 computers that had to get converted to SDI. And so they literally went out and bought, like, I think he said 100 decimators and literally dried up the entire stock in America. And I was like, well, that would explain why when I went to order one, I didn't get it. And he was like, oh yeah, that was totally us. We went through and found every one we could get. I mean, he said, like he said, we were there buying them used from people. So I was like, well, full picture. Now I get why I couldn't order one. And then I get now why all of a sudden I got 4 on the same day, because somebody finally fulfilled that back order. So then I I was basically like, well, what'd you do with them all when you're done? He goes, oh, we still have them. Like, they're just in the warehouse. Like, so, I'm almost offered to go buy them off. Like, can I buy a couple off of you? Cause I still need some. Brian says, I have another edge router if you want it. And thankfully, Bob answered me. Yeah, I'm not a fan of the UI for sure. It was a nice little product, but yeah, I'm not a fan. I set this one up. I set this one up because I wanted to make sure I had backup, basically a backup router in the event my pfSense went down. So this is configured to be a backup router in the event I get pfSense goes down. It's also configured for dual WAN. So if I'm ever somewhere and I could have access to 2 different internet connections, this will basically be dual WAN to IP or to LAN. And so I, in theory, could use this as my backup pfSense here, or I could use it someplace on a remote. And then I could even give it to internet, which would be pretty cool. So, good little product. I am just not a fan of the GUI or interface, and I do not believe these been updated in almost a year. So I think the software is getting old. Not that they don't work, but I just kind of wonder, like, is this product dead? So. Still glad I have it. Still thank you. Very thankful for you, Brian, that I have this, and for the weld, because I still use the elliptical over there that you helped fix. So, you got decimated. Matching bookends. I mean, it'd be a small book. I'm not sure this would hold up a lot. But I mean, I'll take one if you're giving it away. I always like to have products here and there for, you never know, who knows what situation. Yeah, that's like a whole year's production run. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, that's what it was like, oh, okay, well, that explains why they were back ordered last year or the year before. And this was, like I said, pre-COVID. Yep, the Black Magic ones are cheaper, and I don't believe the Black Magic has 4 outputs. Like I said, having 4 outputs was great. Today, we had a situation where, again, we needed one of these things because that telescope feed had to go to 4 different places. It had to go to their TV, it had to go to our station, our competitor station, and the out of market station. So all 3 stations that were there had to pull from this or were told we had to pull video from the telescope if we wanted it, and they had to have an HDMI out. So the HDMI pass through was very handy. And so that decimator again has just proven time and time again to be great. Oh yeah, and as you just pointed out, you don't get the DA part. Yeah, you don't. The built-in DA alone is handy. Throw a converter in, and it's uh, priceless. Not priceless, but you know what I'm saying. Toro says he considered giving the Edge Router X. Yeah, the GUI lacks some stuff there. Did a stream at Yale tonight. 4 cellular modems. Was that through your bonding solution? Is that still a thing? um, yes, the treadmill, the elliptical. Yes, still works. Bob did use an edge router, and switched to pfSense because it's broadcast storms. Yeah, I mean, like I said, I wouldn't. This isn't my primary anyway. This is just a backup. Also, it was a great way of testing because this does passive PoE, and I thought for a second my passive PoE injector was bad, and I plugged it in here and it turned on. So I'm like, okay, so it's not the power adapter, it's the access point that was giving me fits, which it's still over here and works great. So I think I might have a cable issue. Pretty sure I have a cabling issue between here and the access point or where it usually sits upstairs. So I got to go figure that part out. Yeah, so Joe's still using his bonding solution, which is good. Bob recommends watching Willie Howe to learn edge routers. He is very good at teaching about them. Well, that's good. Like I said, if I had a more involved use case with them, would probably use them more. But the one thing I do find very fascinating that you don't see a lot is these actually have a ground lug on them, which I find interesting. I'm sure there's a reason why. Just find it fascinating. David says, cable issue. We were expecting that initially. I had an access point do all sorts of weird things and stuff. Just wouldn't stay connected. Yep, that's pretty much what this thing does. Is it just starts dropping stuff. I'm pretty sure it stormed the network that one day. That's why we were having issues. So, but it hasn't done it down here. The problem I have is it goes through the walls, so that's not exactly the easiest thing to do. I might just change out the cable at both ends, like, not both ends, change out the cable upstairs and then cut this cable off like 2 or 3 feet up, and then move the power adapter up and then like see if that eliminates it. Because the ending, this is the cable that had the surge for the water damage. So I kind of wonder if I cut back probably a good, I don't know, 3 or 4 inches and re-terminated the wire. But I wonder if there's not more damage or if the wire, or so water seeped into the cable. I don't know. So I have some more work to do for sure to get that resolved. Oh yeah, you got to run a new cable through the walls at church. Yeah, not fun. I forget who I saw. Who did it? Somebody on YouTube, or maybe it was. Pretty sure it was YouTube. In their house, they ran flex conduit to every outlet, so they could swap out wires in the future. I was like, that's thinking. That's a pretty good idea. running conduit to every box instead of pulling wires. Yeah, the end did not look good. That's for sure. Why is my phone blowing up? Is there a problem I'm not aware of? Hold on a second. Does not appear to be. Okay. 3CX is emailing me and trying to get me to come back to them, which I have no use case for, but whatever. Alrighty, so we talked about that. We talked about yeah, and he probably should have. As many times as he's tried to change his mind on those things, he probably should have ran conduit. So I guess let's also any questions about the solar eclipse today? I mean, overall, it went well. No real issues. I mean, we lost a couple live shots here and there. They came back. We had a couple other technical issues that I won't get into, but nothing bad, and everything worked for the most part. So, have any questions about that? Please let me know. Otherwise, I'm going to pivot to TrueNAS. You know my saga from last week. For those who were here, if you weren't here, like Brian, we went from TrueNAS Core to TrueNAS Scale, and that part worked. It was a little dicey at one point, but a reboot fixed it, and so we were back up and running on TrueNAS Scale. My issue came when I tried to make it a mirror set and tried to include my NVMe drive that's on a PCI card, and then all hell broke loose. So that did not go well. That box was dead in the water, because not dead in the water, but I mean, it basically didn't boot anymore. I decided to use this as an opportunity to upgrade my TrueNAS box. So I moved the hard drives to a slightly newer computer with an i5 in it, quad core versus dual core, and twice as much RAM. And so I tried every way I could to boot the NVMe drive. It does not want to boot. The BIOS sees that it's there in PCI slot 4 and it calls it mass storage, but it will not boot to it. So I tried to boot off a USB. That did work. So I was like, okay, well, I don't recommend that, but well, if I do two of them, ran into a couple other issues where the USB card was bad or the USB was bad. Swapped it out with a Samsung, and then tried to reinstall with both Samsung cards in or USB drives in, and I kept running into the weirdest thing where it said the boot pool already exists, and I'm like, no, it doesn't. I literally just made this. I literally just installed this. Turns out it's seeing the boot pool from the NVMe, because when TrueNAS boots, it loads enough drivers that it actually sees the NVMe, and then therefore says, I now have two boot pools. So I had to go in with gparted and remove the partition table on the NVMe, yeah. And then I could reboot, and now it didn't see two boot pools. And so my TrueNAS is up and running. It has my 4-drive array. That part is fine. All the data is still there. I thought about restoring the config, but I was like, no. I'm just going to start over new because it's TrueNAS Scale. My config probably was not the best in the first place. So, you know, we shall see what happens. But that's where I left it. I literally have the pool booted. It's dual USB mirror. and that's as far as I left it. Now I want to get into, of course, I had users and shares. I want to get back into that. I'm currently watching Tom Lawrence's video on scale because I know they do things differently. So I've not done any of that yet. And so that's where we left that. I was thinking about diving into that tonight. I'm not sure I will. I'm awfully tired from waking up 2 hours before I wanted to today. So that's probably not a great idea to go diving into that. Yeah. David asked, how do you guys know how many people are watching live? Is there a way TV stations know or estimate? There is a way we know. There are two measuring services out there. One you've probably heard of, which is called Nielsen, and then one you've probably never heard of, which is called ComScore. Both measure audiences in different ways, but basically they're measuring audiences. Lots of people or lots of stations will get what they call overnight ratings because they're constantly getting the boxes, communications from the boxes. So your cable box, your satellite box, whatever, report back to them if you're a provider or data provider. So basically they'll reach out to you and say, can we track your viewing habits? They usually give you money for that. And then based on that, they can estimate how many people are watching. So it's not 100% accurate, but it's fairly accurate. Sometimes I've been told they'll buy data from providers. So the cable company will give them all the data they have. We had 45 boxes turned on to this channel at that point, or whatever it is. And they can use that data. If you're just watching over the air, sometimes they'll send you a box that has a tuner, and so you watch through the tuner, and it says, who's watching right now. So we don't pay for overnight ratings like that. That usually cost a lot more because it's a quick turnaround. But we will eventually find out, oh, we had an estimation of 10,000 people watched it or whatever. Now, if you're watching on a stream, which we often stream things these days, we get those numbers back, and those are accurate because they're streaming counts. We know we had 5,000 people watching our stream. Unfortunately, when you're streaming, we don't know who you are necessarily. We might know a little bit based on, if you provide that data like your phone knows or whatever it is. I'm not sure how that works, but we don't know that you're a 35-year-old male and you have, a six-figure income and you drive a Ferrari. We don't know that information if you're streaming, but if you're watching on your cable box and you told us that, we might know that. So there are pros and cons to each. But basically, yeah. So we'll know eventually how popular our broadcast was today, if you will. So all this money spent, was advertising more expensive like Super Bowl? No, I think we just was basically a big event and we covered it. We did have a couple of sponsorship opportunities throughout the broadcast, but nothing compares to the Super Bowl. Nothing. Period. End of story. I wish the BIOS and UEFI could figure it out, but it definitely would not boot. I want to boot the thing off of a hard disk and not use USB, but in the current configuration, that's not going to happen. So, can you provide a range of what satellite time cost? Yeah. Let me go back to something. Hold on, let me two-factor in. Hold on a second. Sorry about that. People are texting me from work, trying to figure out what's going on. Not sure why they're texting me. Oh, I see why. Hold on a second. There's an issue. Hold on, guys. I'd play the Jeopardy music, but you kind of can't, because, copyright. Okay, so there you go. I found the answer I was looking for. So basically, we pay in the neighborhood of about 170-ish, 180 bucks an hour for satellite time. So, um, so we pay, like I said, 170 bucks an hour, 180 bucks an hour. Depends on how we do it. So there's several ways to do it. So, um, we typically do what I call, or what is known as, dual path. So we buy one satellite window, and then we encode two video streams into that one window or one slot. A lot of people don't do it that way. A lot of people will just buy one path, one feed, but that gets awfully expensive. I know when we did that the old way with actually with two different companies. We did it the old way. It was $5 a minute, which is crazy, and why everyone's like, satellite has a bad rap because that's $5 a minute. Nobody pays $5 a minute unless you're doing like ESPN and you're buying the whole transponder at 36 megahertz. You're not paying $5 a minute. I think ours breaks down to like two something a minute, 207. I'm not sure the math exactly, but it's like $2 a minute, not $5 a minute. So, and then we do two shots in one. If I were to buy the single shot in one path, it would be less. It'd be like $1.50 a minute. So, no, it wouldn't be. It'd be like $2 a minute, because I think dual path, yeah, dual path is like $20 more an hour. So, if I do, let's just say single path at 150, dual path is 170. I paid $20 more an hour, but I get a whole second video path to go up on that satellite. And then at the station, we break it out into, two different receivers, and therefore we have two different paths. So we just basically do everything now as dual path because it's $20 an hour more. And if you're already paying for satellite and you're already sending the satellite truck and a crew, then you're almost guaranteed to want at least an anchor shot and a cutaway shot, or an anchor shot and like the overhead mass cam. So if all else fails, we'll just do a mass cam shot. I mean, on the second path, because it's $20. So, one of those things where it's really not, it gets a bad rap because of the cost that it used to be. But with the codecs improving, the codecs, yeah, the video codecs improving, you can do a lot less space. You need a lot less bandwidth than you used to. And now with combining and muxing, you can do several paths in one. I know like ESPN will do 10 to 12 video paths in one uplink. So in that 36 megahertz that used to be one video path, now they're doing 10 or 12. So the return on investment really is pretty good at that point. I mean, you're doing 10 signals in one path. I mean, that's not bad. Uh, yes, everybody uses the same. Everybody basically uses the same numbers, so therefore, they do trust them, and they get certified, and they're basically like, we know X, and therefore we can estimate Y, and therefore it's sound and backed up by the numbers. So yes. Is there a multiple through though for streaming? Like if I have four people watching. Yeah, that's the problem is we really can't tell if you're one person or four. Um, but the over the air measurement companies like Nielsen can't either. They're getting better about it. They've started to, uh, I believe, ask people like when you're using their boxes. Like I think it asks you now, are there multiple people in the room? Are you by yourself? um, so how we shut the generator? Yeah, they could be asking that. Yeah, like I said, I don't think. I mean, you have to also kind of factor in the scale. If you're doing a satellite shot, it's probably for a big event, and at that point, the cost is really not the issue. Sat trucks can be expensive. Yes, that is also a factor. You have to factor that in. And of course, now the problem is the operators. I mean, we have a sat truck and it works, and we have people who can use it. Not every station does. GSM, what is GSM Buzz? I don't know what that is. Did dot. Hmm. Yeah. Okay. So yeah. So for today, so the sat truck we have has essentially three paths, if you will. So we have two satellite and one microwave, and they could be different video shots. They're different audio. Um, so we had two going up on satellite, and then we had one going back via microwave. Where we were located, we could not see the station, so but we could see our tower. So and the truck again only has one video path for microwave. So we did two on satellite, one on microwave. Um, we can, and I've done it before, we can do dual path over microwave, but we have to reconfigure the encoders to be to shrink that video down even more, and we have to physically change a cable in the back of the truck, and we have to change settings in the transmitter. So it quickly becomes like, is it really worth it? We don't really, like you got to change these three things. We we don't do that very often because when you do dual path microwave, you're pushing the limits of the microwave basically technology. And so if you used to be able to do a live shot, let's just say 30 miles away, if you're doing dual path microwave, you can probably do it 15 miles away because you're basically getting rid of all your FEC, your forward air correction. So you're getting rid of all your FEC to get more throughput, and therefore you don't have the redundancy anymore. When we do a satellite dual path, we don't lose any redundancy because we don't change the FEC. We just go from being essentially a 6 megahertz wide slot to a 9 megahertz wide slot. We lower the video rate ever so slightly, and we get away with the same amount of redundancy or resiliency with a perfectly usable picture still, but we have two of them now. Whereas microwave, you can't really can't really do that because you're already at an 8 megahertz wide slot, and we don't have, it's technical, microwave doesn't have the same roll off factor, and so therefore you don't get to use all 8 megahertz. You have to use like 6 of it or whatever it is, and so it's a lot less. There's a lot less room there to play with, and so therefore you have to basically get rid of your air correction in order to get enough throughput. And so we don't do dual path microwave very often unless it's a very short hop, like 10 miles away, whatever it is, we'll do it that. But for today, we were already buying sat time. So again, you're already buying sat time. It's $20 more an hour to do dual path. So for the 6 hours or 6.5 hours, let's just call it 7, it costs $140 to get a second shot. I mean, for 7 hours, it really makes, at that point, it's a no-brainer. Yes, Nielsen does. Yes, Nielsen. That's how they do it. They send you money, and basically it's cash, and they ask you to participate in their survey. And so they want to know how many people are in your household, what's your income, how many people, that kind of thing, so they can make those estimates more accurate. So, I'd fill it out if I were you. The only pricing I know goes back a couple years. So when was this? This was probably, let's see here. Our sat truck was brand new, so this was probably 7, maybe 8 years ago. We were in Columbus, and we were gonna plug in to a big university there. I'm just gonna say this, and to plug in. So we're at this event. We're at this big sporting event, and I noticed that there's a satellite truck sitting right here, and I kid you not, like there's a sat truck, and right there is the giant fiber connection for the stadium. And I'm like, so I asked the guy, I said, okay, explain this to me. Like, you have a sat truck here, but literally right there is a fiber connection. And the guy told me, and this is his no joke, he's like, it cost me $2,000 to plug into that fiber connection, and I have to pay a per minute fee, and I'm dependent upon the university. He goes, I can spend $2,000, get the sat truck guy all day. He answers to me, and we had the sat time already. So that's my basis for knowledge. It was $2,000 a day to rent a sat truck. This was 7 or 8 years ago. And this, like I said, the sporting event, literally, and I've seen it happen multiple times since then, where they will rent a sat truck instead of plugging into fiber, because the connection fee for the fiber plus the per minute usage fee is more than the sat truck is and the sat time. So, all right, now I gotta go click on a YouTube link. And I have to hear an ad. Oh, come on. Oh, come on. Oh, yeah, that noise. Okay. I know that one. Yep, I get it. So the microwave transmission goes from the truck to the transmitter site and then back to the station. So the transmitter site's 1,000 feet up in the air. It gets a lot better view. Everything basically can see the transmitter site. Therefore, we shoot to the transmitter site and then we bring it back on what we call a TSL, or a transmitter to studio link. So it used forward error correction. I don't think it sends duplicate packets. It's not bonding, like it's not duplication. I believe the way the microwave works is it basically makes a checksum kind of thing. So like what it should be, and then if it's not that, it can do the calculation to figure out what it should have been. And basically, a lot of times you basically send 3/4, which is the typical like 3/4. So it's been a long time since I looked at this, but basically yes, you to do dual path microwave, you go from like a 5/6 FEC to like a 1/4 or 1/2. So you go from almost 100% error correction to like 50% error correction in order to get enough usable bits for your video signal. But then that also makes it susceptible to interference and noise, and therefore you can't go as far. Whereas with the satellite, no matter what I do, I'm doing 3/4 FEC, and therefore the signal is resilient, whether it's one signal or two, because I'm actually increasing the bandwidth more and than I can with microwave. I never filled it out because I don't like sharing my data. Yeah, I figured as much. Yeah. That's basically what the guy said. He's like, it's not worth it. They don't want to do the business. They don't want to do it. So therefore they just charge you a crazy amount of fee to do it. Doesn't make sense to me, but I understand his point about, when the satellite truck guy works for you, instead of having to, if there's a problem, because I've heard this before. I've heard this from multiple people on the satellite forums that I belong to and Facebook groups I belong to, where, the big event, whatever it is, football game, basketball game, Oscars, whatever it is, they will typically send down a fiber path and they'll do satellite for backup. They'll book the fiber path, and maybe the fiber path is for 10 hours, and that's a lot of setup time. The satellite path might be for like the event itself, and it's just a backup. But I've heard on more than one occasion, and this is like pretty common, where these satellite people will be like, so I was backup and then I was primary, because fiber gets cut, fiber gets, I mean, if you think about the path fiber has to go between any two cities, yet alone across the country. So let's say you're doing the Oscars and you're in LA and you're going to send that fiber feed, your video feed from LA to New York City, where everybody but Fox has their master control systems. You have to go from LA all the way to New York City. There are a lot of places in between there that your data can get cut. And unlike the internet, where it can reroute itself, when you get a fiber connection, typically, you're getting a 270 megabit per second feed that goes from point A to point B, and it doesn't get routed and duplicated and resent, and you can't, like, it's not a packet. It's like a direct feed through someone's network, and you hope it comes out the other end. and I need to take a quick short break. Hold on. All right, so sorry about that. So when you're doing the fiber, like I said, you're going across someone else's network, and I have heard story after story about, oh, it's the top of the hour. All of a sudden, my feed went away because someone forgot to change the route, like between Denver and I don't know, Indianapolis. So your fiber feed went from here to there and then stopped. Whereas the satellite, you go up to the satellite, you come back down. That's it. There's no other hops. And in a satellite transmission, you have the ability to receive what you're sending. So I have been on satellite test feeds where the satellite truck was doing a test feed to, let's say, 8 affiliates, and he's like, I'm there, and almost all the affiliates, except for one, was like, I don't see you. But the satellite truck saw himself, and the affiliate saw him. So therefore, you automatically knew that the problem was at the other affiliates. For the record, I was that affiliate that could see him. Because we did the window, and the guy's like, everyone's jumping on this call going, I don't see you, I don't see you. And he goes, does anybody actually see me? And I said, I see you just fine. And so he said, in very colorful language, if Jay sees me, then every one of you should see me. He didn't say it like that, but basically that's what he was saying. So that is why I personally like satellite a lot more than I do fiber, because there is a confirmation there. There's a return. I can see myself come back. I know what I'm sending. I know what I'm receiving. So therefore, I know what you should be receiving. Whereas you put it down fiber, I don't know. You don't know it. Who knows where it goes? Who knows what's happening to it? So I kind of get that. Everyone these days is like, oh, but you could steal it out of the sky. Okay, well, you can do encryption. Oh, blah, blah, blah. And now, and this is, this may get really complicated for a second, but now I know a guy who I follow on Facebook. He does some pretty cool stuff. In fact, he actually, with his people, with his company that he works with, can put his signal up on a satellite, and then the data center, or his control center, if you will, can put a satellite signal on the same exact spot. And using modems, they can cancel each other out, and now they can send and receive IP streams across that satellite spot. And so now you have a point-to-point internet connection that nobody else can receive, because you got to know both sides of the conversation. And those guys are doing some crazy stuff, like 100 megabits plus of internet on a satellite window that nobody else can receive. And this could be in the middle of the freaking desert, and this guy can roll up and give you a 100 megabit internet connection that you can do whatever the hell you feel like it on. And that internet connection comes out in DC and is fed by I believe it's 1 gigabit or higher internet connections. So you have a perfect link in to a data center in DC, all over satellite. And so you just got to hire his company to do it. But I've seen it where he literally has pictures of him. All he is the pipe. And at the other end, they've rolled out, VoIP phones, laptops, and live view units. So this is a political convention, but basically one of the networks hired him to be the pipe in the sky, and they used it for live view, for cellular, for phones, or for not for phones, yeah, for phones, for laptops, and for video. And they went out via his internet pipe in the sky. And it was dedicated, it works, and again, you have somebody working for you. So there's a lot of cool ways you can do satellite technology these days. You just got to use it, and you got to want to use it. And I mean, just having a fiber connection doesn't always solve the issue. Okay. 25K for 3 days. Um, I guarantee you a satellite truck would be cheaper for that price, as I just explained. I just explained how you can do that. Any progress on the F? No, I haven't touched it. I really wish I could, but I have not touched it since I left it the last time. No, I did figure out. I did. I'm sorry, I lied. I did figure out how to stop the video, like so that you can start a different video. I did figure out how to do a drop down menu of pre configured videos. So you can choose one of 3 videos now. But that's as far as I've gotten. Cellular bonding works, although some convention centers will actually jam signals. I doubt it was the unions. Um, because wasn't it Hilton? Like Hilton literally had a jammer, like the actual hotel itself did. Pretty sure that was Hilton. If I'm wrong, please don't sue me. But I'm pretty sure it wasn't the union who did it. um, Master control is yes. So ABC, CBS, NBC are all based out of New York City. Fox is based out of LA and Tempe, Arizona. I forget which is where. I'm pretty sure Fox itself is out of LA, but Fox also has something in Tempe, Arizona that I think is for their sports networks. So if you're watching ABC, CBS, or NBC, that signal is coming from New York City via, I think, Connecticut, actually. And then if you're watching Fox, that signal is coming from LA through your local station. So, like, in ABC is the same way. So, all of them have their headquarters in LA or New York City, except for Fox, who's in LA. And that's just the broadcast networks. That's not cable and all that other stuff because they're all over the place. A lot of local stations, master controls, are ran out of Atlanta through one company, which I'm always like, well, geez, what happens if that company goes down? But hey, whatever. But yeah, the networks themselves come from all 3 of the 3 big ones come from New York City, and then Fox comes from LA. Why they're different, I don't know, but they are. This is actually from Joe and Ashley. Well, Capture the Concept, Ashley's company. Oops. Ashley made this for me. So I think it's awesome. I love it. So yeah, if you want graphics works done, hit up Ashley. Oh no, satellite can do any format you want. It can do 4K if you want it to. It's going to take more bandwidth, but you could do 4K over it. We do 1080i, but you could do 720p, you can do 1080p, you can do HDR, you can do 4K. It all depends on what your encoder uh, is designed to handle. Um, the satellite does have some latency. I don't know the ping times. I'd have to go look it up. I remember he made a comment about it one time, um, but I don't remember what it was. Uh, yes, we've looked at Starlink. People are doing some work with it. Um, I have some issues with Starlink because we looked at putting it on on the cars, but at $2,500 a dish, that's expensive. Then you got to pay for the internet bandwidth, which is expensive. There's someone's got to plug it in and operate it, which is typically what they don't want to do. They usually don't want to be next to the car. So if you put it on a car and then you walk away from the car, what's the point of putting it on the car? Um, I've also heard that apparently, and this burned our competitor last week or 2 weeks ago, um, they apparently did an update during their live shot. Like Starlink did something, and it like killed their signal, and like they didn't do anything about it. They were just, oh, it's there, it's gonna work, and then all of a sudden Starlink's like doing updates in the middle of their live shot, and it almost killed their live shot, from what I was told. So again, one of those things where if you don't own the pipe, like we were talking about satellite, if you're not paying for the pipe, if you're not the one in control of it, do you want to trust it for things? I mean, I think it offers some cool things. Starlink does, but I also think it presents a whole nother set of problems. Welcome in, Ernesto. The union's in off control a lot. Ask me how I know. Remind me to tell you a story about having to pay off a guy to get off a loading dock. Wow. Okay. Yes, it's a great graphics design. I love it. It was and there's Ashley. So no, well, the only master control I know that's in Connecticut is ESPN. But there is an uplink facility in Connecticut somewhere. I don't know where, but there's an uplink facility in Connecticut that I know at least one network goes through. I know this because the weather report one day literally came out. So we have this messaging service, and the messaging service is like, due to bad weather at our uplink site in Connecticut, please switch to your backup feed. And I was like, well, shit, how bad is it snowing there that they're telling me to switch to the backup feed because they can't uplink it? So, um, yeah, the master control is in New York, but I believe at least one of the uplinks, and there's more than one, is in Connecticut. VoIP is bad over 300 milliseconds. Well, I know I don't know what it was. I said I know for a fact the guy was doing uh, laptops, VoIP, and live view all over his IP connection. So I don't know what the latency was, but I mean, if you're making phone calls, of course, it could have been IFB. And if it's IFB over phone, that's a one-way communication. So maybe it's not as important. I don't know. Do you guys have a standard for commercials like spinning ads? Yes, we have a recommended spec sheet that we send to everybody, telling them our preferred way, a secondary way, and then if you submit anything other than that, we're just going to say we hope it works. um, yeah, I mean, we have, like I said, we have the recommended way of doing it. We have a secondary way of doing it that gives you, similar quality. And then if you give us someone else other than that, I mean, we'll try to transcode it, and if it works, great. If not, you'll be sending us a new spot, which we deal with every once in a while. One local university, a very small one, sent us some aspect ratio that I swear almost was IMAX. Like it was a super widescreen, at 24 frames. I'm like, we're not a theater. Like, I literally think they sent us an ad that they meant to send for a theater because it was super wide and 24p. Yeah, that's what his Facebook post said. It's like his Facebook post said that they almost lost a live shot due to an update from Starlink. Can we figure where in Connecticut that is? Yeah, I mean, the obvious one when I hear Connecticut is Bristol, and that's ESPN. I don't think this network goes through ESPN. So I don't know where it would be. Um, but yes, it's Bristol, Connecticut is the home of ESPN. Um, I forget why. There's a story behind it, but I don't know. I forget what it is. All right. Any other questions while we're sitting here? Let me double check my. Nothing else. Oh, come on. Alrighty. 2-to-1 ratio, 10-10 stream. Probably not. No. I mean, I think that'll support it. What didn't like it? I forget. Going to 1080p caused all kinds of issues. What didn't like it? I also remember to look back and figure out what the hell didn't like it. Well, thank you for liking the stream. Glad you guys enjoyed it. Looks like we got 9 likes, 10 viewers. I think the house burning down is a little extreme. Yeah, I don't think the deck links like it, that's for sure. I don't think this monitor does either that I look at from now that I. Or was it? Yeah, I'll have to look into it again. But I did see. Well, I don't know. I'll probably not, but you never know. The deck link is also in a different computer now, so the computer died. So it could have also been the computer sucked. I don't remember. I'll have to think about that again. I mean, if it's just me talking, do you really need it in 1080p or 4K? I mean, I don't think you do, but that's my opinion. Oh, I never gave a progress report where we sit. Um, Currently are at 1,554 subs, and as of April 3rd, we have 2,730 watch hours. Not quite sure why I said we. I have 2,730 public watch hours. So we have crossed the 2,700 or 127 marker, constantly above it now. It seems like it goes up every day. Their day it was 2,706. Now it's 2,730. So we're moving up there. Like I said, once we get there, memberships will probably play a role. Obviously, super chats I think will be a thing at that point. So I might borrow a page out of Jeremy's book and go back and do everything older than a year becomes members only. I kind of like the idea of doing that. Also, members only stream. I do really want to start designing some T-shirts to sell because I think that'd be cool. I have a bunch of sayings as we've walked through before on many streams. So I did see Aaron Parecki talk about a video camcorder there that was pretty cheap. I didn't catch if that did 1080p. As you know, I don't really want to get a DSLR because I think for $1,000, it's just me talking here. I don't really need $1,000 camera with lenses. Yes, the video quality is nice, but I think a video camcorder that's newer than what I have is probably going to be just fine. So wouldn't mind buying some gear. I'm just not there right now. Yeah, most people watch on a phone. It's proven over and over again. Most people watch on a phone. You can't tell a damn difference. I thought about last week on April Fools going to 480 just for you. I thought about it, but then have to reconfigure everything, and I was like, no, I'm not going to do it. Yeah, there's somebody in Connecticut that uplinks. I'm not sure who it is. Yeah, 65-inch television. If you sit 6 feet away from it, unless you got really good eyes, you do not sit nose to nose. Oh, looks like Joe found something. Thank you for a 10 out of 10. Trust me, I'm a broadcaster. I thought you did IT. Yeah, I mean, I mean, some of those webcams these days are pretty damn good. Yeah, the camcorder was a Sony. Yeah, it was a Sony. I don't remember the model number though. And it did look pretty good. Actually, I thought it looked better than his DSLR camera because the lighting was brighter. It wasn't as dark. Do you really want that this to be blurred? I mean, I'm also a video guy. Like I do TV. I don't want the fake like, ooh, look at this. This is out of like to me, honestly, I don't like that effect very much at all. Like when the everything behind you is blurred because if I'm where the camera is, that's not out of focus. Your eyes don't put that out of focus. So if you're artificially making things out of focus for effect, I don't know. I'm just not I'm not a big fan of it. I think it can be used nice. It is used nice a lot of times, but if you watch football, when they first debuted those digital cameras, those DSLR cameras, and they ran out on the field and they had that bokeh effect on it, they got torched. Like nobody liked it because it was so weird and so jarring that nobody liked it. So they backed off. They still do it to an extent. They just don't do it as much as they had, because when you go too far in one way or one extreme, it's not natural and people don't like it. So, as a TV person, as a video guy, I don't, to have blurred focus and whatnot, that seems more like photos. That doesn't seem like video to work to me. And yes, I know this is a slight rant, but you brought it up, so. Yeah, like I said, I thought about it for like a split second, and I was like, no, I'm just not. That's too much work. Oh, 26. Yeah, that's not a lot of coverage. Oh, I like it. I like it. It did. The $200 video camera looked better than his $2,000 camera because he didn't have the exposure right, and he's sitting a foot from the camera. Like, it doesn't matter. You're a foot away from the damn lens. Like, or maybe it was 2 feet, whatever it was. Like, you don't need, you know, sorry, no offense, but if you're spending $2,000 on a camera and you're sitting a foot away from it, I don't know. I don't see the money. I don't see justifying spending that kind of money to do that. I don't know. Now what am I getting texted about? All right, so David says, I don't like the super bokeh blur thing YouTubers do. Yep. Oh, don't get me wrong. Some of that effect is okay and is nice, but I feel like most people overdo it. And when you overdo it, it doesn't seem natural, and therefore it's like, okay, I don't know. Joe says, we debate the out of focus all the time. Like that press conference I did, we go high aperture, but then if we do a moody interview, blurred background. Yeah, I mean, place and time, you know. Yeah, I mean, this is also a good point. Like, if I'm paying a camera person and I'm putting a $200,000 camera up, um, I want damn thing to be in focus. Whether it's the whole stadium or the football, like it better be in focus. um, yeah, I mean, there's a place and time for it. I'm just not a big fan of it. Yeah, like there's a place and time for it. Um, in this setup where, like, there's the wall, I don't really see, I don't really see a use case for it. Also, at this point, there's nothing behind me to even really focus on or blur except for the Lego thing. And at some point, this will be a backdrop once I figure out what I want to do for a backdrop. Um, I did see one the other day that I really like that was wood paneling on like a different depth. Like there was one here and one here, and then in the gap between them there was lights, and then therefore I thought you could put different color lights because again, I'd like for some point for Haley to start using the studio as well, or this area, and doing YouTube videos or streams. So I thought anything we could build that would be neutral, but also had the ability to change colors would be great. I liked when Photo Joseph had that corner shot where there were lights hidden behind the foam panels because he could change the lighting color to whatever he wanted. I thought that was a nice background. Um, I also like Aaron Parecki's side shot where the wall's gray and he often does different colors based on what kind of video he's shooting. Um, so I thought about something similar here, putting gray with, some lights. I don't know, but um, the wood paneling idea I saw the other day, was that Moses? I forget how you pronounce this guy's. Yeah, I think it was Zephin Yeah, I think it was that guy. He had a shot on one of his pages that was like a nice wood with some lights. I thought that was pretty good. Um, I definitely don't want a big studio set. I want to keep this in the small corner that I'm at right now. Um, in fact, I'm already encroaching too much on the room. I kind of want to move back like another foot or two. So whatever I build would not be very, would be very shallow behind me. Um, and I also don't want it on this wall. This is a brand new wall, drywall. I do not want to build anything that is going to be permanently attached to the wall. So I probably would build like a fake wall and literally like just have it attached to the ceiling by some screws so that if I ever wanted to move it, it would be really easy just to unscrew the wall and slide it out or move it to over there or over here or wherever, because I don't want to tear up this drywall that's brand new. So if you have ideas for sets or backgrounds that you like, I would love to know and hear them because I'm always curious and interested to see what people like. And so, yeah. So I think with that, looks like we lost 2 viewers but gained a like. So that's awesome. I think I'm going to call it a night. Hopefully you all learned something. Hopefully you all enjoyed it. Looks like several of you have already commented that you did. So thank you. I'm not sure what next week will bring. I do plan on being live, but I have no idea the topic. We'll probably get back to either the FFmpeg web GUI, something with TrueNAS, who knows, or I kind of want to try that Active Directory, Linux Active Directory Zential, I forget how to pronounce it. I do want to get back on, try that again. I did install it, but I never actually configured any part of it, so I think that might be a fun rabbit hole. So anyway, thank you guys. David says great stream. I had fun, stayed longer than I thought, so you guys kept me, all your questions very helpful. And so you all have a good night. And that is the wrong graphic. There we go.